welcome to the Fedora Files. I'm Gregory Fedora, and with me today is Bret from 10th Ward Distillery. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, absolutely.
So, first, I want to know, 10th Ward, how did the name come about? Do you know the name?
Frederick used to be divided into wards like Washington, D.C. is right now, and the original location of the distillery was what was in Frederick's once 10th Ward.
Okay.
So that's how the name came up.
So it's got a history, it's got a real in-depth to Frederick.
Yep, it is definitely got roots in Frederick. It is a local distillery to its heart.
Now, I've had a few of your things. I've had your canned, your mixed drinks, which were really good. But how long have you been the distiller with 10th Ward?
I've only been here about a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. Prior to here, I was working in a distillery in Baltimore. I've been in distilling for about a year.
Okay.
And I got into distilling because, like a lot of my career, I've had a lot of good luck. They say you make your own luck, so hopefully I've made a lot of my own luck. And Baltimore, the place in Baltimore was looking for something. I was a brewer for a very long time, and brewing was going in directions I really didn't want to go. So this distillery was nice enough to take me on and train me up. So
you just kind of happened upon it, and then
and I happened to be Facebook friends with somebody who worked there at the time, and I said, should I apply for this? And she said, absolutely.
Nice. So
I did, and it turned out to be a great relationship. Great people.
So what is your favorite kind of spirit to distill, like to make?
I'm a rye whiskey guy. That's what we distilled in my first job, and I've always liked rye whiskey anyway, and I like rye in general as a brewer. I always loved rye. I was a bread baker for several years too, and that was my favorite kind of bread to make. So I'm a rye guy to my core.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, although a good glass of bourbon, I have no problem with that. I'll never turn one down.
Oh, nice. Well, I understand. I've learned some of the history of this area. I guess Maryland used to be the big distillery.
Maryland rye is one of only 2 state designated spirits in the country, as a matter of fact. There's Kentucky bourbon and Maryland rye.
Oh, really?
And to make Maryland rye, it has to be made and aged in Maryland.
Okay.
Just like Kentucky bourbon has to be made in Kentucky. And so you can make a Maryland style rye, which is, got various definitions if you make it in another area. But Maryland rye has to be made in Maryland.
Okay.
So.
Oh, very cool. So that's a real, that's pretty cool that they have that, Kentucky's about bourbon, Maryland's the whiskey, and then, that's and a lot of people don't know that. They just think, when you think of that, distilleries, people often just think of Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't realize that there is a big history, and there's a lot of distilleries popping up in Maryland.
Well, and one of the biggest players in the history of Kentucky bourbon was a Marylander. Basil Hayden was a Catholic missionary from Maryland.
Oh, really?
And he established a distillery down there. And there's Old Granddad bourbon, which the Old Granddad on the label is Basil Hayden. His grandsons started that whiskey. Yeah, so Maryland plays an important role in that too. But yeah, Maryland rye. Rye had an image problem post-Prohibition, in that it became in cinema the drink of gangsters and vagabonds.
Okay.
And that was a little bit damaging. And bourbon became more the spirit, and Scotch of high society. But fortunately, that image has faded, and Maryland rye is making a comeback, and people know that it's a great spirit in its own right. And Maryland was a great rye grain producer. They used it as a cover crop because it's very good for restoring nitrogen to the soil. And they wanted to know what to do with all of this rye afterwards, and making whiskey out of it was, the thing that made the most sense. So that's how they established this great tradition, pre-Prohibition in Maryland rye. Yeah, and now that it's making a comeback and craft spirits are really becoming very popular in the United States, Maryland rye, people are beginning to realize rye isn't just the grain of Tolstoy novels and Russian peasants. It's really a beautiful grain in its own right. It's not a second cousin to barley or wheat or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing more and more mixed breweries and stuff having collaborations. And I know that I've talked to some other distilleries, and the distillery community has a really cool, tight knit network. They're not super competitive as much as they like to celebrate each other's differences.
Absolutely, and the Distillers Guild here in Maryland has meetings monthly. They're very tight. And I'll be going to one later this year at Old Line Distillery. And they're always, when I first met those guys, they're always very friendly. They're bringing samples of their stuff they want to share. And they're really about openness and collaboration and helping the industry grow. They're not just it's not like the gangster days where if
Yeah.
you invaded on someone's turf, you got hatcheted. So
I'm glad that's over.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a hatchet in the back just in case.
Yeah. Well, you got to be prepared.
No.
But now it's cool. Like we're at the actual distillery. You also have a location in downtown Frederick.
Yep, the cocktail lab. Yep.
Okay. So the people can come. So if they want to try your stuff, besides going to the liquor store, they can go there and check it out and like it. And it's a really nice location. It's right on is that Patrick Street?
It's just off of Patrick Street. On I want to say 2nd Street or Church Street.
Oh, it's on Church. Okay.
And it's a great place for drinks. We just introduced our summer menu. We made a new summer liqueur. It's got things like raspberries and rhubarb.
Oh wow.
And beautiful white tea in it and some other things. Really good, great deep red color. Almost looks like a really beautiful burgundy red wine. And we have various cocktails. Our head bartender Alicia has come up with some beautiful cocktails that include that and other things for summer. So definitely. Visiting the lab is a great way to experience the whiskey because you can just have the whiskey or you can have these amazing cocktails that our bartenders are making for you.
Yeah, and I know it's like just because how I discovered you was through my sister-in-law, so I'll give her a little bit of credit every now and then. But she actually found she went to the store and bought like a sampler pack of your different already pre-mixed drinks, which was really neat. Like that I thought was really neat because like. Besides just having your straight whiskeys and stuff for sale, you guys do these different like pre-made cocktails in cans.
Yep, and we make them here, and we mix them by hand, and they're all each batch is approved by Monica, the owner, to make sure that they're meeting the standard. And yeah, we do things like infusing fresh lavender into gin and tea and things like that, and we do everything from scratch here, and we test them very carefully to make sure that they're good and consistent. And soon we'll be having for like our club release a lime mojito drink, and we have these planned out really far in advance so we can let people know what's coming up and get them excited about it.
So like I walked through your distillery and saw some. I don't want to say any names because I don't want to like release names that you haven't said you're doing, but. Do you have some that are coming out in the next few months that you can tell us about that aren't there yet but are coming?
We do have one called the Queen's Bee's Knees, which is made with ginger and lavender and lemon. That is really very good. We're releasing that to Virginia here soon, and then we're going to have can some more next month, and you'll be able to see that in more markets really soon. We are working on a Maryland Dry right now that we're actually distilling today.
Oh, nice.
To doing the spirit run on today. We're going to put that in a barrel and. If things go well, maybe January, we'll see how those things go. Whenever the oak says it's ready, it's ready. A lot of people think that we make all the decisions here, but we don't. The liquor makes the decisions for us. Okay. But when we feel like that's ready, we'll definitely have that out there. We're really excited about the rye. And we're going to have more smoked corn bourbon for all you bourbon lovers really soon. I know you've been missing it. That'll be happening soon. We actually have our corn harvested and smoked by a local farmer.
Oh, really? Cool.
It's a secret family ham smoking recipe. He won't tell us what it is.
Nice.
Yeah, we got a lot. And we have a barrel-aged Jennifer that's coming out in July. It's actually aged and used honey jack barrels. And for those who don't know, honey jack is actually distilled mead that we get from orchid cellars nearby.
Oh, wow.
And, we distill it and we age it in oak. And we took a couple of those barrels that aged the honey jack and we aged some Jennifer in it. And this is what's right here. And it's delightful.
So I mean, you use local farmers and all that to get
We use local as much as we can. And the nice thing is local farmers are gearing up for it. They have found that breweries and distilleries are really great, consistent customers for them. And so, yeah, we are definitely... sometimes you have to use the commodity markets to make ends meet, but the Maryland farmers have become so engaged in it that pretty soon, if you're not making spirit from local grain, you're missing out is where it's going to be. So,
very cool.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be a distillery in Maryland. And people have really, not just the distillers, but customers have really grabbed onto the ethos of Maryland Rye, which is really great. So it's pushing that even further so that the local market will become more self-sustaining, which is really what you want to see, not just for us, but we want the local farmers to thrive too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's definitely, it's good for everybody when the farmers thrive.
Oh, yeah. And so do you have a favorite kind of spirit that you enjoy the most?
I'm a rye whiskey guy. And although I do love a good bourbon and a good scotch, I love a rye whiskey. And I love my favorite cocktail I make with rye is a Boulevardier, which is basically a Negroni, a gin Negroni, but it's made with rye. So it's got some bitter liqueur and some sweet vermouth in it, and I just love that. And other than that, a Manhattan, a really good rye Manhattan is a great thing. My girlfriend is a history teacher, and she just introduced me to a cocktail called the Churchill that was actually made for Winston Churchill.
Oh, nice.
That uses scotch, but I'd love to make it with rye, and it's got Cointreau and lime juice in it.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, I'll be trying that really soon.
If it's good, you might want to put that in cans.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, but it's really a good, and when it comes to bourbons, I like the nice, spicy, high rye bourbons and things like that. Like I said, rye just appeals to me at a pretty deep level, so that's really my favorite spirit to have.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, it almost seems like it is, and
sometimes more than not. When you're drinking, it's even more.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. My rye alcohol content, my rye blood content goes up. And it's funny because my heritage is largely in the British Isles, so it's not like rye is a huge part of my DNA, but somehow
it got there.
Yeah, somehow it managed to wedge its way in there.
Very cool. So you guys have that. Is there any other things you guys are looking forward to in the next couple of years, expansion-wise? Or?
Yes, expansion-wise, we are getting a new still.
Okay.
Our current still is 1,000 liters. We're getting a 2,000-liter still.
Okay.
That we're going to install in the same area. We're just going to move everything down. We're getting a nice big glycol chiller to go with that and everything to help keep the condensers working and all that. We are currently working on getting the space next door, which will be another 4,500 square feet to complement our 9,000 square feet that we already have, which may one day allow us to. Right now, we use a great company called Ironheart Canning that does mobile canning for a lot of places. They're a nationwide company. They do a wonderful job, but one day it might allow us to be self-sufficient in canning, or it might just be a great space to store a lot of barrels because the more barrels we're aging, the happier I'll be.
Yeah.
And Monica will be, and we can get those.
The customers will be.
Eventually, yes, we'll get those 2, 3, 4-year-old spirits out there eventually, which is really the goal, to have stuff that's really been nice and laid down. And we feel like we can make a really great spirit here in a 6-month period because we're really careful with the spirit that we make. But it would be just great to one day crack open a 2-year-old barrel and be able to bottle a straight rye here, or 4-year-old and bottle in bond, and it would just be awesome.
Oh, that'd be
so that's what we're really looking forward to over the next few years.
Oh, nice. That's exciting. So I was curious, you're mentioning like the different ages. On average, how long, like for this, how long does it take to distill and age and to get to? I know you said it's up to the spirit.
This one's about 6 months. Our white spirits, it's a matter of getting a really good fermentation over about 3 to 5 days. And then we do a series of initial distillations, the first distillations. We have what's called a pot still here. So basically it's what it sounds like. It's a gigantic pot, and you boil off the steam, and the steam goes through a condenser of cold water, which turns it back into liquid, and you catch that.
Oh, cool.
And the first run is just to get the bulk alcohol out, and that's called a stripping run. And that produces something called the low wines. And you don't want to drink the low wines. They're low proof and they're really impure. And so what you do is you take a whole bunch of low wines that you blended together and you distill those again. So it'll take a couple weeks to get to that point since we only have one still. When we have 2 stills, it'll be a much quicker process. And once you distill the low wines, then you get the spirit that you want.
Okay.
And that's the stuff where the smoked corn whiskey will serve it as a white spirit. So, in a couple weeks, it takes to get through that. Or if we decide to age it, it'll be usually it's a minimum of 6 months before the barrel really starts. There's a great distiller named Lincoln Henderson. He invented Woodford Reserve and Angel's Envy. And he said you spend the first 4 days getting the wood into the whiskey and the next 4 years getting it out. Something to that effect. And he, so it takes about 6 months for all the flavors to mingle together. So that's about the minimum you're going to have something in a barrel before it really gets the benefit of the oak.
So it's kind of a patience game.
Yeah, and you can do things like oak chips and oak spirals, and there's nothing wrong with doing those things to kind of accelerate. And I know there are distilleries that do that and make really good stuff, but generally, if you can, you wait on the barrel to do the job because the barrel does the best work.
And then, now the barrels can only be used once, correct? Or
no. Well, you can use them only once to make things like bourbon and rye. They're actually laws for that. But if you're going to age things like gin, you can use used barrels.
Okay.
If you use a secondary aging barrel to age, say like a rye whiskey or something, you have to call it something else.
Oh, okay.
And as a matter of fact, the vast majority of single malt Scotch that you drink is aged in used bourbon barrels.
Really? Okay.
There are exceptions, like Macallan will use sherry barrels and things like that. But yeah, as a rule, used bourbon barrels are what a single malt Scotch is aged in.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so that's where a lot of those barrels will end up. Some of our barrels have ended up at local breweries. When I used to be a brewer in Hagerstown, we worked with Mad Science Brewing to barrel some Scotch ale and some 10th Ward barrels, and they were fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so they're really good for that, too. So as we expand our used barrel inventory, you'll probably see some of them in the barrel house at your favorite craft breweries, and we love selling to those guys because it's really fun to taste the stuff that they produce.
And they come up with from your
Yeah, and a really great barrel-aged beer is hard to argue with.
Mm-hmm. No, true, very true. Now, I know you're busy, you got stuff going, and you guys are doing stuff out there, and I don't want to keep you.
No, it's okay.
I thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, absolutely.
I hope that maybe we can come back and talk again, like as maybe you get more stuff, like when you get the new distillery going and all that.
Yeah, we can get together here and do a little tasting panel.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, have a great time. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's I love doing stuff like this because, I'm a big believer in the fact that, there used to be a time when there were fixtures in the community, that everybody knew the mailman and the butcher and the postman, and everybody knew the brewer and the guy who made the whiskey. And I feel like the people who make the beer and the whiskey and the bread and things like that, the commodities in a town, should be well known. They should be part of the community, and that helps with the integration on that. Mm-hmm. So doing these podcasts and things like that, I think, I want people to know I want people to know the man behind the curtain. Yeah. There's not a bunch of smoke and mirrors going on here. We're people working hard to do stuff to make the community better, and that's what we really want to do. So I want to know these people.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's cool that people. I don't think people realize the history of the distiller, especially in Frederick and Maryland, but also what's here. Like a lot of people don't realize this is all locally being done, and it's not being brought in, and it's not some huge company. It's like a part of the family, part of the fabric of Frederick. And
at the end of the day, every business has to make a profit to survive. But the reason we make a profit is not because we're beholden to shareholders or anything. The reason we make a profit is because we're genuinely trying to do the best we can for the people who buy our stuff. Yeah. And that's what's at the base of everything we do. And, without the folks watching this or listening to this, we're nothing. Mm-hmm. And we always keep that in mind. Yeah. And that's who we're here for. So that's, I love doing these things. I want them to know, thank you. Yeah. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And so where can people find, because there are some people in Frederick, they can actually, go to the place in Frederick or the local liquor stores, and I guess you're doing now. Are you just in Maryland, Virginia right now? Or are you expanding?
We are in some places in D.C. We do have some locations in D.C. Virginia, you'll start seeing us in the ABC stores around the end of the first week of July, like the 7th through the 8th. Okay. We're shipping actually on Thursday. Everything's going down there on Thursday, and then they have to go through the big system down there. So they were telling us around the 8th, you'll see us down there. But here in the local area and other parts of Maryland, pretty much any of your favorite locals should be stocking.
Can people order online?
Yes, we do deliver.
So if you want to tell what the website is and Instagram.
10thwarddistilling.com. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at 10th Ward Distilling. And there is a link at the top of the page of our website where you can order things. See what's coming up. We have a canned cocktail club and a bottle club where you get special releases during the year that only the clubs get, which is really a lot of fun. So you can join in on those too. And hopefully soon, we've talked about it, we'll be able to do some Meet the Distiller dates and things like that in the future. We've definitely talked about it. So look for those things on the website. But definitely, we deliver to you. Dan will lovingly package your bottles or cans in my distiller and assistant distiller and some bubble wrap in a nice box for you. And we'll send it out to you. Absolutely.
Very cool.
So there's a lot of outlets for you to get it. And unfortunately, we can't ship across state borders. There's silly laws.
Hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, for some reason, we just can't get the government to believe that distilled alcohol is not a great public danger. But we'll get there eventually. And definitely look into getting us in any of those routes. I understand that, going out to the store for unnecessary reasons right now is not high on people's list, and I get it. And then, and let's face it, we can't live without food, but we can live without alcohol. So if you don't feel like going to the liquor store, we will send it to you, and you don't have to even worry about that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, we'll take care of you.
Again, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
This has been fun. This was awesome. And for those of you watching or listening, thank you for checking us out. And definitely check out 10th Ward. Go to the liquor store, find if you're Virginia, Maryland. If you're not, drive over from Ohio and West Virginia and Pennsylvania and come get some, or just contact me. I'll ship it.
Yes. And the address is 55 East Patrick Street. You were right. Yeah, Joe, just come on by, and it is East Patrick Street. I get on Church Street to go there. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I live actually near Thurmont, so driving in Frederick still confuses me as if I was coming out of town. Yeah. But yeah, and definitely, yeah. It's just we have air conditioning, which is also really cool. So you can come into the air conditioned space and hang out as long as you like. We have music on the weekends, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Again, thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe and keep searching.
Check out FedoraCRT.com today.